inside for Albert. Albert will get the score. Fiddler, it's farewell. He's happened to a legend and probably rugby league immortality. That's not a try, that's a miracle.
G'day legends, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. We have got State of Origin about 24 hours away from kicking off game one. In my opinion, probably the best day of the year tomorrow. State of Origin 1. The teams have been picked. We've had all the controversies. All the water's gone under the bridge, whether it be Terrell May, Corey Horsburgh, you name it. We've spoken about it all. At the end of the day, it comes down to these 17 or 18 dudes that are running out for New South Wales and Queensland that will decide this one, and I am so excited for it. So many talking points to get stuck into. Kathmandu, welcome in. How be thee?
I am so well. I love Origin Week. We love Origin Week. I mean, look at you. You've got your Blues gear on. I didn't get the memo. I should have worn mine as well. You got to tell me next time.
Got a bit of Tim Williams in you. Don't get the memos. Yeah. Shout out to Timmy. Another great New South Welshman. We're turning on each other already.
Loves to forget a jersey. I'm really looking forward to this one. We've got some great questions that we're going to cover. I think it'll give a nice picture of where we're kind of at in terms of the Origin chats and what your thoughts are. But more so, I think what you expect from this game as well.
For sure. And look, I'm going to own it up front, as you can tell by what I'm wearing. I am a Blues fan. It's the one team I go for. It's the one team I genuinely care about. So if you are a Queenslander and you feel this might be a little bit biased, I'm actually happy to wear that. I'm doing my absolute best, but I'm just going to give my honest thoughts on how I see this one playing out. I copped a little bit of stick a couple of weeks ago because we had the Women's Origin game too, and I actually picked Queensland to win that one. Copped a bit of stick, but I do take what I do pretty seriously, and I tip genuinely who I think will win games of football and what changes I think need to be made genuinely. So call bias if you will, but you can't have it both ways. Just remember that. So keep that in mind. Kathmandu, we're going to go through all these questions. We've got about 6 or 7 questions we're going to go through and talk about those. And then I've got, in a little addition that'll be exclusive to the Roo Crew as part of this podcast, we've got a Q&A of questions sent in by the Roo Crew that we'll be going through for Origin 1. But for you guys here, let's get stuck into these questions. What do we got first, Mandu? Talk to me.
I did just want to point out too, don't be fooled, I am also a Blues fan. I'm not in neutrals because I'm here to balance things. This is not a balanced panel whatsoever. Okay, question 1. How do we see this game actually playing out?
Yeah, look, for me in this one, I go through the team list and we'll talk about them in a little bit more depth later, but I really do like the Blues in this one. For the vast majority of my life, I've gone into Origin games not feeling good about the Blues, especially against some of those Queensland great sides I've had over the years. I feel good about this one. And there's a few things that have to work out in order for New South Wales to do well. And I'm also not hiding away from the facts that this Penrith combination we've run for over the last few years, it hasn't been overly successful. And I'm well and truly aware of that. I've been quite outspoken about, the Nath Clear, Isaiah Yeo combo and whatnot. I've also been very outspoken about what Mitch Moses did last year and why I think he deserved to be the halfback again. I think the other factor that can't be ignored, but there's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is. But I think the other big thing that, this Panthers combination has struggled in Origin football for a couple of years. We won last year and, yes, Mitch Moses, he was the halfback, but I think it's also really worth noting that Cam Murray was the lock forward. Now, Cam Murray's not available this year, and, I still remember, in the preseason, as soon as that injury happened to Cam Murray, one of my first reactions whenever something like this happens is I ring Matty the Water Boy. I love that he's an absolute dribbler like me, and I rang him, and I was honestly so consumed with the fact that it was going to fuck up Origin. I almost forgot Matty the Waterboy just had his entire life snapped in half by losing his captain of his club team. And when Cam Murray got injured that day, it was the first thing that came to mind to me was, shit, we found a really good balance last year. Obviously, Mitch Moses played halfback, Jerome Lewis was at 5'8", but I think one of the keys was the way that Cameron Murray played in that 13 role in game 2 and 3, and the way that Isaiah Yeo shifted himself into being more of a middle forward than a link man in that game. And that is one thing that really does concern me. And I do think as well that if we do not win this Origin series, I think we need to see changes. We saw changes last year. We got results off the back of it. Kat, you as my witness. We lost game 1. We had a player sent off. We did really well. And I said after that game, the number one thing that has to happen here, and it's nothing against him, is that Nico Hines has to go and Mitch Moses has to come in. And it seemed really harsh at the time because The Blues had lost that game off a send-off in the opening 2 minutes or 7 minutes or whatever the hell it was. But we needed to have a genuine 7 in there to come in. You know, history is what history is. Mitch Moses came in and I think had the most dominant series we've seen from a halfback since Andrew Johns essentially did amazing things. He's now been moved back to 5'8" because we've got a generational talent in Nathan Cleary. And I understand why Laurie Daly's made that decision. It's not the decision I would have made, but I understand why Laurie has done it. But if we do lose this Origin series, I do think there has to be serious questions around that heading into the future. And I think the thing that people are sort of ignoring a little bit is that Nathan Cleary is going to be a great of the game. Yeah, there's no denies of that from me whatsoever. But you look at the age that Nathan Cleary is at now. Can you do an exact check for me, Kat? I think he's 25, 26, maybe 27 at this point. Mitch Moses,
27.
27, sweet. Mitch Moses is 31 years old right now. Like, this is where halves should be at their absolute peak. And I personally believe Mitch is at his peak right now. And I think that Nath, whilst it feels like he has just been incredible over the last few years, I still think he has still got levels that he can go to. And I think those levels are in the Origin arena. And I think it will come. And maybe this is the series that he just blows the cobwebs away and goes, yeah, just a reminder to all of you, I'm the greatest player we've ever seen. And I hope it is this series. Nothing would make me happier than if it was this series. But I do think I would have gone with Mitch Moses to sort of start at halfback in this one. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in one of our other questions. But I do think the Blues win this one, but I think it comes down to the combo of Moses and Nathan, how that pans out. And, you know, I think it's easy to throw two halves together and say, just make it work. Like, it's not that easy. They're two guys that come from their systems as being the main guys. They have been for quite some time, gelling into that all of a sudden. It can be really difficult. And I think that because they are both halfbacks, it does make it a little bit more difficult. And, you know, the argument against that is Mitch Moses was a 5'8" coming through the grades, you know. So was Nathan Cleary. I remember watching Nathan Cleary playing in I forget what year it was, but he played the SG Ball Grand Final against the Roosters that had Latrell Mitchell in it, funnily enough. And, like, he was the 5'8". Sonny Luke was his halfback back then. Like, both have played six. Both are halfbacks. There's no denying that whatsoever. They've got to gel together. Queensland doesn't have that problem. They've got, you know, probably the most genuine 7 in the comp in Daly Cherry Evans. Like, I think if you pick Daly at 6, you go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But you can see Cleary and Moses playing 6. Daly, it just wouldn't work. And Cam Munster, there's not a hope in hell you would pick him at halfback. He is a bona fide 5'8", and he is closer to a fullback than he is to a halfback, realistically. So Queensland don't have that problem. So for me, that's the biggest thing for New South Wales, how that's going to gel together. But I look through our forward pack, the guys we've got, and I just feel super confident. If Payne Haas was out, which there was, you know, rumours of that during the week, I believe he's going to be okay and he's going to feature in this one. That would flip the narrative completely for me. Same if Tino was out for Queensland, I would feel hyper confident. Those two guys, I can't wait to watch them go toe-to-toe and go toe-to-toe for the next 5 or 6 years. That's going to be unreal to watch in the Origin arena. Our forward pack I feel good about. As far as our backline goes, I feel incredible about. I love our backline. You know, to not be able to pick Tom Trbojevic and have to pick Zach Lomax, who was, you know, he was just like a duck to water last year in Origin. It just fit him, and just his physicality and all that sort of stuff. He just ticks all the boxes, Zach Lomax. So our backline, we'll get to Stephen Crichton in our next sort of question and touch on him, but just from start to finish, I think we've picked a team that's going to get through a lot of yardage between Dill Edwards, Zach Lomax, Brian To'o. So many yards in those guys. Mitch Barnett, Payne Haas, even, you know, a guy like Angus Crichton on his edge as well. I think that if Isaiah Yeo chooses to run a little bit more than ball play, which I think is the obvious thing and what has to happen, I really like us there as well. So I just think we tick a lot of boxes. The Queensland side, I think that we've got the size advantage on Queensland, which I think is all good and well if the game plays out the way that we think and hope it will. If it doesn't, and Queensland keep the ball in play and they get us tired, they get us on the back foot, that's where all of a sudden you look at this matchup between Rob Toya and Latrell Mitchell. Latrell Mitchell's a big, imposing character. But if Queensland are keeping the ball in play and they've got Latrell Mitchell in the washing machine and they've got him exhausted, a young guy with young feet in Rob Toya could give huge headaches. Same as, you know, Hamiso's playing left centre. I would assume if I'm coaching Queensland, I'm giving Hamiso a license to roam around everywhere. Like, I'm sure Hamiso will pop up on that right hand edge again. And I think that if the game goes the way that Queensland want it to be played, which is playing through the middle, keep the ball in play, long stints of just continuous rugby league, that's where I think their guys can really start to take advantage. And all of that is based around the kicking game of Daly Cherry Evans and to a lesser extent Cam Munster, but most of it will come off DCE. I love the side we've gone for. I think that our bench is stronger. I think our backs are stronger. I think our forwards are stronger. Hooker's the spot where they have got the huge advantage here in Harry Grant. But you can only, you do limit Harry Grant's ability to control this game by how you control the forward pack. And if you win the middle, you obviously put him on the back foot from the start. So I do think that's where we sort of do counter that. But he is, I genuinely believe he's the second best hooker to ever play rugby league behind Cameron Smith. You've obviously got legends like, Steve Walters, Danny Badiris, Benny Elias that are in front of him at the moment. I think Harry Grant is going to age past all those guys. So he's the guy that can really turn it on its head. Obviously the X factor of Cameron Munster as well can be enormous, and just Tino through the middle is the other one I'm concerned with. But as far as I see it going, I really like our chances in this one. I don't think we're going to blow them out of the park. I've seen a few calls of 13 plus. I don't think it'll be like that. I think it will be tight. I think that the way Queensland, they're playing at Suncorp, it's the 30-year anniversary of the 1995 side. They've got that printed on the neck of their jersey. It'll be the last thing all these guys see before they put that jersey on. And Queensland do it better than anyone, bottling up that emotion of things like that. So I have no doubt whatsoever we're going to get a fucking good Queensland side here. But yeah, as far as result, I'm feeling okay about the New South Wales Blues. I think we put up one hell of a fight here, and I think we are like $1.70 favourites or something like that, which usually shits me about Origin because I think it's very undeserved and I can never make sense of it. This year, I don't know. Say I'm being cocky, I'm being arrogant. Sure. For the first time in a long time, I'm starting to feel confident about the Blues and the side that we've got. Yeah. So I'm feeling okay at the moment. What are your thoughts, Mando?
I'm very confident in this Blues lineup. I think they look great. I guess the only concern is what we're going to talk about next, which is the changes that we might see in that lineup. But in saying that, I also think our bench, I'm content with their ability to fill in those holes if they need to. There is talk about Stephen Crichton and Campbell Graham and what's going to happen here in that centre position. But before I spoil it, I thought I would just throw to you. What are some of the predicted changes before kickoff?
Yeah, so look, for me, Stephen Crichton, I've heard that he's 50-50. I love Stephen Crichton. I think he's the best centre in the world. I've said that on a number of occasions over the last year or so. For me, if you're 50-50, I don't know if I can pick you. I think I have to go for Campbell Graham. And you've obviously got Matt Burton in the squad as well, along with Campbell Graham, but I just think Campbell Graham, he plays right centre at Clubland. I think defensively, he's just fantastic. I think that Stephen Crichton's the best defensive centre in the world, and there's no argument there. But I don't think Campbell Graham's all that far behind him.
No.
Some of the games he's had over the last few weeks and I think unfortunately for Campbell Graham, he's just not getting the attacking opportunities at the moment. But mate, his defence at right centre, and there's being a good defender, then there's being a good tackler. And being a good defender is having the vision, the timing. And I think Campbell Graham ticks all those boxes, and he's a good tackler. He's a big body. He bodies up. You very rarely see him fall off tackles. And I think that, being a good defensive tackler is important. But I think when you're marking up against Hamiso, it's the being a good defender that's going to matter. Because if you miss the jump by a split second, half a metre, it might as well be a football field with this guy.
It's preempting what Hamiso's going to do. Yeah, and Campbell Graham he's got the footy intelligence, like the footy IQ to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the part that's much harder to train
100%.
Than just teaching someone what to do.
Not to mention, when you're defending, as per just about every team in the NRL, when you're going up against the side, I have always thought right edge centre is probably the most important defensive spot on the field because most guys pass best right to left. Like if you have a look in the league at all the superstars in our game, and let's have a look at the Queensland Maroons, for example, the two guys that worry me the most in this side are Kalen Ponga and Cameron Munster. Both do their best work, and there's no question about it, down the left side. And a lot of the best players in the league, their right to left pass is their natural side for a right-handed player. So that spot at right centre becomes incredibly important. Defensively, you have to be unbelievable. And usually, most sides naturally attack down the left a little bit more because it is that natural side for most guys. So right centre, it doesn't shock me that Stephen Crichton and Campbell Graham the two best defensive guys ended up on the right side of the field. We know that Campbell Graham can play both. We know that Stephen Crichton can play both. We've seen them do it at very high clicks. I've seen Critter win comps on both sides. It doesn't shock me whatsoever that those two guys that are probably the two best defensive centres end up on the right side. And, you know, when you have a look at the Queensland side, they had an option of picking between Val Holmes, who defensively is not great. So instead, they went for Rob Toyer, who statistically is the best defender, the best defensive right centre that they could have possibly picked in that spot. And I think once again, it comes down to that right side, the natural side for guys to ball play on tends to be down the left edge. That right centre spot is incredibly important. And for me, I know Matt Burton's having a good season. Does he offer more in attack than Campbell Graham? Quite possibly. Yeah, like, you know, when you look at his kicking game, he probably offers a wider array of weapons, but that defensive spot is going to be so important because you are marking up on the edge of Hamiso and Cam Munster, the two guys that they don't need to be on the front foot to win State of Origin games. We've seen it time and time again. So I think that right centre spot's incredibly important. For me, if I am not confident that Campbell Graham is 100, that Stephen Crichton is 100% ready to go and I have no concerns, I think I turn to Campbell Graham. And I think once again, sometimes as New South Welshmen, I think in the past we've got a little bit lost, and I think we do tend to do it at times now as well, that we sometimes look at sort of individual legacies over winning this game of football. What's the best thing for us to win this game of football? Is it having a 70% Stephen Crichton or 100% Campbell Graham? For me, it's a 100% Campbell Graham. If Critter, you know, it's an honest conversation. I have no doubt whatsoever Stephen Crichton being the guy he is, Laurie Daly will have this conversation with him, Craig Bellamy will have this conversation with him, and I have no doubt whatsoever coming from that Canterbury system, and just Critter being who Critter is, he'll make the best decision for the state.
Team. Yeah.
Not for Stephen Crichton.
Yeah.
So whichever one of them is there, I'm confident they've made the right decision there. And if it does end up being Campbell Graham, I have no concerns. I don't think it'll be Matt Burton. I'm very, very confident it'll be Campbell Graham. And I think that's pretty obvious, to be honest with you. So as far as the Blues team, that's the only change that I can possibly see happening here. The other potential one you could throw in there is maybe Hudson Young starting on an edge. You could put Hudson on the left edge and maybe bring Angus off the bench. But I think after what Angus and Liam Martin did last year,
they won't change that.
I don't think they'll change it. I'd be very surprised if they change that. So, you know, had we lost last year's series and we're coming in fresh, maybe it is a different story with Huddy. But I would be pretty surprised if Laurie Daly does make that change.
Yeah.
The other one is obviously Payne Haas. As I said before, if Payne Haas was to be out of this game and it was Stefano coming into this side, with all due respect to Stefano, I'd be hugely concerned because I know that Payne Haas, he is a big game player. He's able to handle this stage at a high click. And, you know, people saying, if Payne Haas wasn't in doubt, they should pick Terrell May. If you swapped Payne Haas, Terrell May, and you're telling me that that's a like for like in first grade and what they can do, but there is something about knowing that a guy's going to do it on the big stage. And I know Payne Haas is going to do it. So it's no insult to Stefano in this situation. Whoever it was that was coming in for him, I would still be super, super concerned about it. So I think Payne Haas, he is our most important forward. And I don't really think that's a hot take, especially after what he did last year. No. He was incredible.
Well, the season that he's had as well.
I mean, he's killing it. Yeah. The team around him is, and that's why I can't wait to see. I think Payne Haas and Pat Carrigan, they won't say it, but I think both of them would be very excited about a change of environment.
You know what? I actually think this is one of the most exciting elements of State of Origin for me, is when you see these elite players who are, I guess, they are at the limitations of whatever their team is capable of at any given time. You do have players that lead the way for their team, but you look at the Broncos right now and they are lackluster. When you throw Payne Haas and Pat Carrigan into these elite sides, it is so exciting to see how they perform. And
this is what makes it so interesting. You talk about Payne Haas and Pat Carrigan, like, they're two key guys in this squad. I'll throw some other names at you that are key squad members. The fullback for New South Wales Blues, Dylan Edwards, his team's coming last.
Yeah.
The fullback for the Queensland Maroons is Caleb Ponga. His team's right at the bottom and in an absolute shit show. A kid that's played 25 first grade games just moved to his jersey on the weekend and had a cracker game. Like, I think KP will be so excited to get out of there.
KP is coming in with a point to prove, I think, as well for himself.
Yep. You look at the halves in New South Wales, Mitch Moses and Nathan Cleary. These two play each other next week. Both their teams are in the bottom four at the moment. The Queensland halves. Cameron Munster, he's the exception. He's playing great footy, doing good things. His team's doing well. Daly Cherry Evans, I think he's in the worst form he's been in 5 or 6 years. probably since he wasn't in Origin, realistically. So when you have a look at all those key spots, not to mention, the locks as well, we spoke about Pat Carrigan, Isaiah Yeo. At least Nathan Cleary's missed a heap of games this year and whatnot. Isaiah Yeo hasn't. He's been there for every one of these losses. This bloke doesn't know how to lose, and all of a sudden he can't do anything but lose. I think there's so many key guys in these squads that would be just so excited to get out of clubland. I look at the Gold Coast Titans boys, Mo Fotuaika, Tino, Bo Fermor.
Oh, they'd be itching for some results.
Must be itching to get out of there and just change their environment and play at a higher level at the moment. It's really interesting that you have got teams at the top like Canterbury. They've provided 2 players. You've got the Canberra Raiders. They've provided 1 player. The New Zealand Warriors. They've provided 1 player. Like, to have 3 top 4 teams providing a grand total of, what was that, 5 or 6 players? That's just unheard of. Usually it's Melbourne, Penrith that are providing 10 players.
Yeah, we're stacked with players from those top 2, top 3 sides.
And there's an argument that, that sucks. We've got Origin players that are out of form. And there's that way to look at it. But I look at it as all these guys are champions. And they're champions going into a new arena with probably a little bit more to play for at the moment, because it's been a shit time at Clubland. And I'm so excited to see who is a good enough player to rise out of that and just take themselves to that next level, because that's what Origin football is all about, taking yourself to that next point immediately.
And to be honest, that was Mitch Moses' story last year.
100% it was.
Parramatta were underperforming last year, but he came in as an individual. He showed us what Mitch Moses can do, not what Parramatta can do. And look at what he did.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, my Queensland side, I do think there will be a couple of changes here. Billy Slater is no stranger to making changes an hour before kickoff. He's done it pretty consistently over the last few years. For me, one huge advantage I think we have that the New South Wales Blues have is our bench. I think it is just so much stronger than Queensland's bench. They've got Tom Dearden, Lindsay Collins, both Fermor, Trent Leroux, 2 debutants there who both of them I think well and truly deserve their jersey, in particular both Fermor. I'm just... having Bo Fermor on the bench doesn't make a heap of sense to me. I think Billy Slater knows he's going to start on an edge. I think Billy Slater's known that for a couple of weeks now. I think he's picked him on the bench to take a little bit of media spotlight off him. I think people are talking about, Ruben Cotter playing out of position, Jeremiah Nanai, who wasn't in first grade a few weeks ago, starting on the edge, all that sort of stuff. I think you'll see Bo Fermor start on the edge. I think you'll see Nanai come off the bench. And the thing that I love about our bench for the Blues, Connor Watson, Spencer Leniu, Hudson Young, those 3 have just got a heap of X factor. They can break a game open. Max King's not that sort of player, but that's not Max King's role. Those 3, though, like if we get the same Spencer Leniu we got last year in Origin, see you later. If we get the Hudson Young we've got in Origin in the NRL over the last 10 weeks, good luck. And we know that Connor Watson, I think he's the biggest X factor in rugby league. Like, he is just incredible what he is capable of. I look at Queensland's bench. I think Tom Dearden is an out-and-out Origin player. I'm just not quite sure where he gets used. And more than likely where he gets used will be a little bit out of position. Mm-hmm. I personally think he'll be fine, though. I think he'll be sweet. But it's Collins, Bo Fermor and Trent Leroux. You've only got one out-and-out middle there. That's Lindsay Collins. I think he's played 30 minutes of football in the last two months or so.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest thing for him.
It'll be huge for him. What I think they'll do is they'll move Lindsay Collins into the front row. I think he will start. I think he'll play the opening 25 minutes. He's a guy that's been there, done it before. If Billy Slater saw enough from him in that 25 minutes returning from injury a week earlier to pick him, he's seen enough for him to start, in my opinion. I'd be starting Lindsay Collins. I'd bring Mo Fotuaika off the bench. I would be using Mo. Once again, I wouldn't have picked Mo myself. Billy Slater has. He's backed him. History says that means he'll get something out of Mo Fotuaika. I would be pairing Mo Fotuaika up with Spencer Leniu. I'd be pulling the trigger when he goes on the field and saying, hey, that motherfucker is yours to deal with. We need that same from you. The other change I would be making is Trent Leroux. Is Bo Fermor. I'd be starting him and I'd be bringing Nanai off the bench. If Nanai's out there playing 80 minutes, as a New South Welshman, I love that because I know defensively, I don't think he's going to be up to the pace of this game for 80 minutes.
Yeah.
But if you bring him off the bench for 40 minutes and you insert him against tired bodies, I know the kid's an absolute freak. The athleticism he's got, the X factor he's got, the confidence he's got, he can wreak absolute havoc. I think that's the way that I would go. I'd be bringing Lindsay Collins into the starting side and Mo Fotuaika off the bench, and I'd be starting both Fermor on an edge. I'd be letting him play 80 minutes, and I would be allowing Nanai to come off the bench and just pick and choose my moments when I put Nanai onto the field. He's sort of a like for like for Hudson Young for me. And it's not so much about matching up with New South Wales. I know Queensland never play like that and never want to do that. But I just think in the modern game, you do need a little bit more coming off your bench. What I love about having Trent Leary on the pine, I would have had Corey Horswood there, probably over Mo Fodawaker. I'm okay with Trent being there. But I like that Trent can come onto the field and he can jump into that link man role. And it means Pat Carrigan turns into a middle forward. And all of a sudden, you just gain an extra guy there. And I think that's when Pat Carrigan plays his best footy, when he is just going forward. And I think that Trent Leary can sort of control the middle and whatnot. I really like that combination for them. So those are the changes I'd be making. I don't think the backline changes. I think Harry Grant will probably go the distance in this game. The only reason why he won't is simply because he hasn't played much footy. I think he came back after 4 weeks off. He played 55 minutes. He had a bye last week. He hasn't played since. That's the only concern with Harry Grant. But if Tom Dearden comes on, I think Tommy Dearden will be just fine there. I know people are saying he hasn't played hooker before. I get it. I know a guy when I see one that I just know he'll handle whatever's fucking thrown at him. I've seen him in Queensland jerseys for 25 years and it's shit me to no end. I have no doubt whatsoever that Tom Dearden's one of those guys. Timmy Williams keeps making a very valid point. You cannot give me a plan of how you'd actually use Tom Dearden. And my response, I think, to Timmy doesn't make sense, but it makes complete sense to me. I don't need a plan for Tom Dearden right now. The game will dictate how Tom Dearden's utilised, and I think he'll find his way. They lost the series last year. I thought Dearden was Queensland's best player, saved a number of tries, came up with a number of big moments that's sort of lost in the wash of a loss, realistically. So I think Tommy Dearden will be fine. That's how I see them running out in this one for both sides. As far as New South Wales, I think that the centre spot is the only change we could see. Hudson Young maybe, but I think that they will run out pretty much as named there, Kat.
Yeah, so that potentially we're going to see Campbell Graham take Stephen Crichton's spot, pending injury, pending what they decide as a team. Now, speaking of Stephen Crichton, we've touched on some of the strengths on that Blues side, also some of the strengths on the Queensland side. With that impending injury, I really want to talk about where you see those strengths as we head into the game tomorrow. What does it actually look like for you, and where do you think New South Wales will get their strength from, and where do you think Queensland will get theirs from? As
I've said, with New South Wales, I think our strength is our forward pack. I think they're going to lay a really good platform that's going to give us plenty of opportunities. I think it's safe to assume Nathan Cleary will play on the right side with Liam Martin. I think Mitch Moses will play on the left. I think the left side is where we're going to see a lot of traffic go. And I'm very interested to see which edge both Fermor plays on. The big question is, like, regardless of where or like who they put on that edge, you're still going to have that right edge is going to be, DCE, a back rower, and then Rob Toyer. Guys that haven't defended together yet. And Rob Toyer's done incredibly well at first grade, there's no doubt about it. But he gets, honestly, like we've been joking about it on Bloke in a Bar, those reality TV shows where it's like the most dangerous job in the world. Like marking Latrell Mitchell in Origin is the most dangerous job in the world. It's insane.
Yeah.
Marking Latrell Mitchell on an edge with a ball player like Mitch Moses, who will get him good ball, fuck that. Like, that is an absolute nightmare for me.
Nightmare fuel, as they say.
Nightmare fuel. And you know what? Like the other one in between that I think sort of gets forgotten a little bit in the conversation is Angus Crichton. Like he was the best back rower in the world last year, and I think it's one of the most dominant series by a back rower Origin's ever seen. Not just New South Wales Origin's ever seen last year, Angus. He was just on another level. Another one that he hasn't really hit the heights for the Roosters this year. I think he'll be very keen to get back into the Origin arena and show what he can do. That edge of Mitch Moses, Angus Crichton, Latrell Mitchell, and Brian To'o.
Yeah. Well, we have heard through the grapevine too that left edge is looking incredibly strong.
Yeah.
Which is not a surprise.
Not a surprise at all. And I think I would have picked Mitch Moses at halfback. Yeah, I've said this on a number of occasions. But I can see the value in let Nathan Cleary control. And if he does his job, which he's more than capable of doing, it just allows Mitch Moses to just play eyes up and just create opportunities. And I'm very, very excited to see how Mitch does handle this. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Probably not so much Campbell Graham, but it wouldn't surprise me if you do see Stephen Crichton float over a little bit more. I think if Campbell Graham stays in, he'll stay there. But I think you will also see a lot of Latrell. I think you'll see probably once or twice throughout this game a set play that has Latrell coming back against the grain or popping up on the wrong side of the ruck or something. And the beauty about Latrell is that, he's as dangerous with the ball as he is without the ball, which just creates opportunities for Angus Crichton all the time. So I think that left edge, I think off the back of our forward pack being so strong, I think that left edge is where they will get a lot of points. Nath Cleary will be the dominant ball player on the right. I think you will see a lot of opportunities where they lay to the right-hand side. Nath comes across, finds Mitch Moses, and then he creates havoc out on that edge.
Yeah.
And I think as well, like even hearing Angus Crichton talk on the radio the other day, like they asked him about his teammate, Rob Toyer. He's so happy for the kid, it's unreal. And then he finished it with, but I'm going to try and kill him. And I love that. I fucking love that.
That's the one thing we've not seen enough of in this.
That's the one thing we haven't seen enough of in 20 years over the New South Wales Blues. We haven't had that.
Both coaches get asked, like, do you hate the other state? And they give such politically correct answers. You're allowed to hate them.
You are allowed to. Personally, I don't give a fuck what the coaches say. Like, I don't care. It's the players that I want to see buy into that, and it's what, you know.
Well, let's see. We're not really in the Gallen days, are we?
No, we're not. But it's also like you had, you know, Jerome Luai pretty much went up to Suncorp last year, grabbed DCE by the collar, shook him up and went at him. And that was his way of saying, I fucking hate you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give you an inch here.
Yeah.
We're obviously without Jerome, which does have its own concerns. There's no denying that. But I think Angus is the real barometer of that. Like you have a look at that moment last year where him and Ruben Cotter get in a little clash, and he just goes, fucking get out of him, and just push Cotter away like he was a child, essentially. This is Ruben
Sit
Cotter.
down.
One of the toughest guys in the game, one of the most well-respected guys in the game. I love what Angus brings in that regard. And there's a world where you could have both Fermor, a debutant, DCE, not known for being a fantastic defensive player, and Toya, another debutant on that edge, and then, you know, depending on what they want to do with their wingers, you know, I'm pretty sure you will have Coates on the left side. So you could have Val Holmes on the right side as well, who's another guy that defensively there's question marks there. So I think the left edge is where they have to go. On the other side, strengths for Queensland, I think their biggest strength is that their spine, they've been there, they've done it before. Harry Grant, he's obviously played with Munster for years upon years upon years. You've got Daly Cherry Evans there, who's been the 7 with Harry Grant over the last few seasons, and Kalen Ponga, who's played plenty of footy with all those guys. And I think the DCE is very good to acclimatising to other guys around him. I think he does it better than most guys in the league, that he can just play the role that he needs to suit other fellas. I think that's their biggest strength. And I think in particular, the one spot where, you know, you look at Kalen Ponga and Dylan Edwards, two very different players. Which one would you rather have? Depends how you want to play your football and how you want to go about it. You know, Munster and Moses. Munster in the Origin arena, he's the guy, obviously. There's no denying that. But, you know, after what Moses did last year, for the first time he actually puts his hand up in the argument. Cleary and DCE. In the Origin arena, it's been DCE by a mile. And it's not even fucking close. In NRL, Cleary's achieved more in the last half decade than what DCE has in the last 1.5 decades. Hooker, love Reece Robson. He's tough as nails, come with big plays. He just doesn't have that upside that Harry Grant does, nor does any other hooker in our game, essentially. Maybe Appy on his best day. But Harry Grant, the ability he has to just win the ruck and turn momentum in a heartbeat, I think that is the biggest strength for Queensland. I think that if they can move New South Wales around and keep the ball in play and use their more mobile guys like Beau Fermor, like Trent Learoux, like Pat Carrigan, these sort of guys, and use them around the ruck and move us around, and Harry Grant can just take advantage of markers, that's where they can tire us out and gas us out and make, you know, your Payne Haas's do a lot of work. Max Kings do a lot of work. Spencer Leniu, if he comes on for his 20 minutes and he spends it defending, going laterally, getting a marker just in the washing machine, that's where I can see Queensland getting on top. We've got the two best kickers on the field, in my opinion, in Mitch Moses and Nathan Cleary. But as far as those two goes compared to DCE kicking game in Origin, I really think after JT and Joey, DCE's probably got the third best kicking game in Origin we've seen over the last 5 years. He has kicked so much better New South Wales sides to absolute fucking death and just given them no choice but to truck it out of their own end and just waste their energy all night, keep his team on top. I think for me, Harry Grant's the big one for Queensland, where I think that's their strength over New South Wales, and it might only be that one strength, but Harry Grant is that good that it could be enough to win this game of football for them. And I think as well, the beauty of Harry Grant, whether he'll play 80 minutes or not, you know, if Tom Dearden comes on, it's all good and well to say Tom Dearden, he's not a hooker, he won't handle it. The beauty of it is none of us fucking know. at least with Harry Grant, I know what's coming my way. I know what I can prepare for. Tom did, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know what he's going to do out of night. I know he's a bloody good footballer. I know he's tough as nails. I know he's got a great running game. If Queensland's winning the middle, I'll give you the hot tip. Those three things will come in handy for a guy playing 9 who's fresh on the field.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Great
the unknown
point.
can be more scary than the known.
Well, yeah. What do you prep for?
How do you prep for Tom?
Yeah.
How do you prepare for what you don't know what's coming, which can be fucking terrifying. So
Yeah.
I do think that's a big strength for Queensland as well.
Okay. Well, with that, we have strengths. We also have weaknesses. So why don't you take us through weaknesses for New South Wales?
Weaknesses for New South Wales, without going around in circles, I do think it's the unknown of the halves. How will they gel together? Are two alphas going to be able to work together? There's just a lot of question marks around it. Also around Isaiah Yeo, we spoke about it at the start of the podcast that it is a concern for me that, Cam Murray came in last year and was so fucking good, and Isaiah Yeo was unreal playing in a slightly different role. Mitch Moses was also fantastic at the halfback. He now hands the keys to Nathan Cleary and plays a bit of a secondary role, which I think it can work, don't get me wrong. But it is a little bit of the unknown for me.
Yeah.
And that's is it better off to have the known of Mitch Moses and Jerome Luai? We know you can do a job. Or do you go into a little bit of the unknown with the two better ball players on paper? But is the chemistry going to be there? Now, these guys are professionals. They have both achieved a lot in their careers. I'm sure they'll make the balance work.
Yeah.
I think they will, but there is still just the unknown. We know, I haven't heard anyone ask this week, geez, what's the balance DCE and Munster going to be like? No one's even suggested it. No one's asked the question. And it doesn't have to be asked. And DCE and Munster will at no point this week have a conversation about it. I would imagine at some point there has to be little teething issues between Cleary and Moses.
Yeah.
They'll say there isn't. There has to be at some point, yeah. I'm New South Wales through and through. There has to be. And if you went down my avenue of going Moses at halfback, Cleary at 6, you're still going to have those teething issues. It doesn't change anything. If you went for a Moses Luai option, it's just fallen into place off the back of last year. You went for a Cleary and Luai, it's fallen into place from what they did in their premierships and what they have done in Origin. So it is just the unknown for me. That's the weakness. Outside of that, I don't think we have too many weaknesses. I just think because we've got a guy like Connor Watson, if anyone gets injured, we're okay.
Yeah,
we
we've
will
got
be able
the guy that can slot into any position.
Yeah, and he himself can slot into any position, but then we've also got the coverage in other spots just to make it work. Like if you get to absolute worst case scenario and maybe you have to play an Angus Crichton and shift him out to centre, I'm confident Angus could do a job there. But you've got Connor Watson who can cover just about everything on the field. So I feel okay about our coverage. Our bench, I really like it. I think it is just the other big concern, and whether you call it a weakness or not, we'll know in 24 hours, the impact of Michael Maguire. How much he meant to that squad, how he was able to get that side up, how they were able to buy in. And I personally think the immediate barometer of that will be Spencer Lanier. I think that when he gets on the field, he went from last year in Vegas causing an absolute shit fight, not playing footy for 8 weeks, coming back for a handful of weeks, getting picked from Origin and showing up like he had played Origin for 25 years and had been the best at it and knew he was the best at it, to then going back to Clubland and being good, but not being anywhere near what we saw in Origin. Comes out this year. I don't think he's been great for the Roosters. I don't think he's been anywhere near what he was in Origin. I don't think he's been anywhere near what he was for the Penrith Panthers. You did see last week or the week before against Canterbury, he came out 100 fucking miles an hour. Had a few errors there, but it's the first time I've seen in Spencer's eyes that intent that he showed in Origin. And I think when you see him pick up his card and it flashes down to him, you might even be able to see it pre-game, just Spencer's demeanour. I think that'll tell you
Interesting.
whether these Blues have really brought in or not. I think that, all the guys that are starting, they're all, the ultimate professionals. They'll be zoned in. They'll be ready to go. I think that little edge that we can get is with, let's be honest here, our fucking lunatic, our absolute lunatic. And, I mean that with the greatest respect to Spencer Lanier because
It's a compliment.
It's a compliment because to be able to do that sort of stuff, you need to have some lunatic in you. Gordon Tallis, one of the greatest forwards we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Lunatic,
Yeah.
absolute lunatic. And you could see it in his eyes in games where he'd run out and you go, fuck. As a New South Welshman, I'd be sitting at home, they'd zoom in and I go, oh, shit, okay. He's going to tear us a new arsehole. Here you can see it in his eyes. He's ready to go. We've got a few guys like that. Latrell Mitchell, his persona, I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Kat. You're a South Sydney fan. You know Latrell as well, his sort of personality. I look at him this week and I see him upload a video of him kicking a goal from the sideline and turning around and smiling at the camera while it's in the air. And I go, okay, I know Latrell's ready to fuck. This is the guy. I want him at his arrogant fucking best because that's when he plays. When he's quiet, that's not what I want from Latrell. I want I want him calling it Trellians. I want him doing that sort of shit. I am just so confident that Latrell is getting ready to go up against a guy that's played 10 first grade games. If I'm Laurie Daly, I'd be putting it in, and if I'm Craig Bellamy, I'd be putting it in Latrell's face going, this is Billy Slater disrespecting you. He's picking a guy that's played 10 games. He could have picked Dane Gagai, who's played 300.
This guy's debuting in front of you.
Yep. And he's decided to let him mark you. I just think Latrell is going to be up and about for it. And that's Rob Toyer deserves his opportunity 100%. That's not me going against Rob Toyer, but that's the mindset I'd be putting in Latrell. And you know what? I don't think anyone needs to say it to him. No. I think he will take that personally as it is. What have you seen this week from Latrell?
No, I couldn't echo your thoughts enough. I think seeing the media ban is one thing, right? It's what he posts himself. That says where he's at. And I think he's showing a lot of confidence. He's just wearing that jersey and he's having fun with it. And when Trell feels good, he plays well. But it's very obvious when he's feeling good because he shows it. And like he's far more animated. He's less behind closed doors. He's really just showing people like I'm out here. And time again, you see how what he posts. Yeah. And I hate to make it a social media thing, but it's just true that
there's a track record with Latrell though.
There is a track record that when he's out there and he's posting stuff and he's active, he's hungry for it.
Yeah.
And he's a big game player, and I think he'll walk out there and there's nothing Trell loves more than proving people wrong.
Yeah.
And if there's any doubters in that stadium at any point in time, like he's ready to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the best version of Trell.
And I think like back to the point we were talking about weaknesses with New South Wales, I've already seen it in Latrell. I think we'll be okay there.
Yeah.
Spencer Lenu's the barometer for me. When he comes onto that field in that 25th minute, I think you'll be able to tell a lot about where this squad is at.
Yeah.
And, the elephant in the room as well, one of Spencer Lenu's best mates is Terrell May. How's that going to impact him? I don't know.
Yeah, because he is definitely one of those players where mentality is really important. And you mentioned it earlier, but having that buy-in to the team, believing in the ethos, like being one with the mission. Like I get it and I'm on board and I'm on the train and I'm going to ride with you.
Yeah.
He's the kind of player that needs to be on that train with you to play his best footy.
Yeah. And the coach last year
got him on the train.
Picked Jerome Luai as well. One of his other boys. Now Terrell May's been left out. I'm interested. And you know what? I personally think Spencer is a professional enough to go, no, this is the jersey I'm buying into. I love what he said last year. And you know what? Last year with all the stuff in Vegas, I was far from the biggest fan of Spencer Leniu. I said before Origin, I wouldn't have picked him in my side. Got to the end of it and went, that was a mistake. He definitely
needs
100%
to be there.
needs to be there, 100%, which is why we're picking him again this year. But I love that. So a journo said to him last year, Kat, do you deserve that jersey? And he said, you know what? Probably not, but my family deserves the jersey.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that. And I just didn't expect that to come from Spencer Leniu. And you know what? He backed it the fuck up.
He sure did.
I love to say. And I think that without Jerome Luai, who was really that energy kind of guy, I think throughout the middle of the game, Spencer Leniu, he's holding a lot in his hands. I think he's holding a lot more. Last year, he was a bit of a hit and hope and see what happens. And he certainly hit and it was fantastic. This year, it's, okay, we know what the expectation is and the team needs you to deliver that again. So I think he'll be a really good barometer of where that's at. Weakness for the Maroons, Kat. When I look at them, and I'm assuming that they are going to make the changes that I think they will. So I think the bench will hold its own. I'm just concerned about the forward pack. And I'm just concerned about their edge defence. And I understand that Toya's been picked based off what he's done in clubland. But just marking up against Latrell, I'm not going to make this about Latrell Mitchell again, but I just think it's a huge task. It's a huge task for Daly Cherry Evans to be going up against that edge. It's just their edge defence and where they insert certain guys and how their guys go on debut. Because, we've got one debutant. We've got Max King, who's coming off the bench for us. He'll play 20, 25 minutes. And we'll have two if Campbell Graham comes in. And if Campbell Graham comes in, he's one of those guys that's going to be defending in a really key position. Whereas I look at Queensland, They've got Rob Toyer. As I said, I think right centre is one of the most important defensive positions on the field. They've got a debutant there. And I think there's every chance they'll have a debutant defending on the right edge as well in both Fermor. And then Trent Leary, he'll come on and play that link man role. I think he'll be okay there. But it is just, depending on where they put certain guys, and regardless, Rob Toyer, it's interesting, isn't it? Like we just spoke about, right centre being one of the most important defensive positions, and there's a very good chance we have two debutants at right centre in this
positions.
game.
Yeah, wow.
So interesting to see. Granted, Campbell Graham's probably had 100 more games under his first grade, under his belt and whatnot. That's sort of the spot that I see for Queensland is that, and I think we said it on Bloke yesterday, if I am Nathan Cleary and Mitch Moses, first three sets, I want it finishing with Latrell Mitchell one-on-one with Rob Toyer, and let's test him out. Let's see where he's at.
Yeah.
And I think that's the spot that they will heavily target in this game.
I think that's fascinating too because Val Holmes' weakness too is defence, and he's on the other side, and it's kind of like that's a weakness as well.
Yeah, and that's where like Val Holmes, I assume he'll be right winger. He's playing left centre at the moment.
You think they'll shift him?
I think, surely you're not going to shift Coates away from his strong side. Like, surely you're going to let Coates play on the left side with Cameron Munster there on that edge. Like, surely you keep that combination.
So then you've got Toyer and Holmes next to each other.
I think that's what it'll be.
So like that is a potential weakness to that side.
It's a huge weakness if that's what they go for. But we know what these Queenslanders are like. It's a weakness on paper. It doesn't mean shit when you get out there.
And it doesn't stop Val Holmes from scoring tries, does it?
And if you look through the history of Origin as far as New South Wales Blues go, like, sure, there might be better combos that you could pick and choose, but Latrell Mitchell, Brian Toto, like it doesn't get much better than that. It's a
the
huge
best
task.
right edge there is in the game.
It is a huge, huge task. So, yeah, that's probably the weakness for me, and that's where I think the Blues will go after.
All right, cool. Let's move on because I feel like we could break down every single position. Who do you think is under the most pressure in both teams?
I think for the New South Wales Blues, I think it's twofold. I think it's the Penrith group in the spine. I think in particular Isaiah Yeo and Nathan Cleary. I think these two guys are under pressure, and I think that people will scoff at that. And people call me like a Penrith hater and all this bullshit. They're under pressure because if we lose this series, you're going to look back at the last 5 years and sort of go, okay, the Blues should have won more than they did. And the one series they won in unbelievable circumstances was when Yeo was playing as a middle forward and Nathan Cleary wasn't playing. And Mitch Moses stepped up, Jerome Luai stepped up, Cam Murray stepped up. With those guys away, these guys have to execute and they have to get the job done. We've got a better team on paper. We've got, a lot of things that are in our favour at the moment. And it's not like, and I think what puts them under pressure, Kat, is that they're not just guys that, you hope will win. They're guys that have got the ability not only to win, but to fucking dominate, to absolutely dominate. And I think that, I think the other thing that's interesting is for the first time, these Panthers boys, like I think they come into Origin camp and I think the long distance view is, okay, we're going for a second premiership in a row. We're going for a third. We're going for a fourth. Mate, I'm not sure if you're playing fucking finals footy this year. This is your grand final this year. This is your moment to establish yourself properly because every other year when things go wrong with Penrith, with the New South Wales Blues, everyone goes, we're making changes this year. It has to be done. I sit there on Bloke every fucking year and say it has to be changes. Then they win a comp and everyone goes, no, we'll forget about it. They won the comp. Let's go back there. And it's happened again this year, realistically. Like, I don't think they're going to win a comp this year. We've been saying that for, 18 months or whatever it might be. I think they're the guys that are really under pressure. And I think the other one under pressure, Kat, is Laurie Daly. Because the narrative writes itself now. One, the narrative where you should have picked May, which that'll be the angle that people will push. And two, it'll be, why did you change a winning halves combo? And, everyone will forget that they were calling for it and everything like that. But to change your 7 and your 6 and move your 7 to 6, it's a big call to make. So I think those are the guys that are under the most pressure when it comes to the New South Wales Blues. There's also an argument that Mitch Moses is under pressure. Like if they lose this game, he could be the scapegoat for it. If he plays poorly, we should have picked a 5'8". I think if we lose this game, it'll fall pretty harshly on one of the heads of Mitch Moses, Nathan Cleary, or Laurie Daly.
Yeah, because the argument with the halves is that Luai and Cleary are also a premiership winning combination too. So really what's not being tried and tested is the Cleary Moses combo.
It's the
and that's the
unknown.
one that we're using.
Yeah. And you know what? I just said about Tom Dearden, like the unknown, you don't know what you're going to get. We're all
actually
assuming
beautiful.
that these two sevens will struggle to work together. The unknown is that, hey, these two are professionals. They're extremely talented. They gel together incredibly well. One takes control, the other doesn't. They swing both sides and they absolutely dominate,
Yeah.
which is every chance in the world they do.
Yeah.
But I do think if anyone's going to be under pressure after this game, I think it'll be one or more likely two of those three, depending on which
Okay.
half doesn't play as well, or which, and Daly if they don't win.
Yeah.
For Queensland, it'll probably sound silly, but I do think Cameron Munster's under a little bit of pressure. You look at Cam Munster throughout the history of Origin or his time in Origin, he's been one of the greatest players Origin has seen, but he has been quiet for the last few years. Tommy Dearden is on the rise. He's obviously playing 14 in this game. He'll do a good job there. He'll earn his stripes there. But I do think that, there is a bit of an argument. People at the start of the season were saying that Tom Dearden, he was Queensland's best in that Origin last year. He was obviously, I thought he was Australia's best in the game we went to against Tonga. He was brilliant. Tom Dearden's putting up one hell of an argument at the moment. It probably sounds a little bit strange to say Cam Munster's under pressure, but I do think that Tom Dearden's really, really pressing him for that jersey. And he's not getting any younger, Cam Munster. He's had a few injuries over the years and whatnot. And Cam Munster can come out and in one game have just one of those moments where you go, oh, no, I was way fucking off.
Yeah.
And I had some stats yesterday on Bloke in a Bar. I'll see if I can find them to go through them. But if you have a look at Cam Munster, like he's having a very good season. There's no denying that. He's having a great season. But if you have a look over the last few weeks, he really has started to pick it up out of nowhere. If you have a look so far this season, I think he's played 10 games of football this season. He's had 14 try assists, which is really good.
Yeah, wow.
In the last 4 weeks, he's had 6. So he's had almost half of them in the last 4 weeks. If you have a look in the 10 games he's played this year, he's had 23 tackle breaks. He's had 17 of them in the last 4 weeks. He's only ran for over 100 metres in a game 4 times in the last 10 games. All 4 of them were the last 4 games.
Yeah, wow.
So Munster is picking up momentum at the right time of the year, which is what Cam Munster did for the 5 or 6 years before he was a little bit quiet. He just picked up momentum at the right time. So I do think Munster's under a little bit of pressure. And I think the other one that is under pressure as well is not under pressure. I think it's not I just think that if this one goes poorly for Queensland, I think it could just age that you look back and the coach, Billy Slater, he was untouchable 2 years ago. He was the greatest thing since sliced bread. He was saying all the right words, doing all the right things, picking all the right debutants, and they were killing it. Didn't quite see it last year. They were up 1-0. He was being the bush poet, fucking we're Queenslanders, we're all this shit. And New South Wales absolutely beat the living shit out of them in those next 2 games. He comes into this game, he makes big decisions, and I back Billy Slater for doing it. He's picked debutants. He's picked a kid that's played 10 games of first grade at centre. If we look back at this series and we look at it and we go, the storyline was Latrell Mitchell, the best centre, the most dominant centre in the world, takes on a kid playing 10 games of first grade and gives it to him. The optics over the last 2 years won't be good for Billy Slater all of a sudden. As I said, it's the same for Laurie Daly. I think whenever you're an Origin coach and your name isn't Wayne Bennett, I think you're under pressure. I think that's the reality of it. But I do think that if some of these decisions blow up in Billy's face, which history tells us they won't, but if they do, I think all of a sudden he does fall under quite a bit of pressure. And if this is the series that wakes up Cleary and Yeo and that combination, it's going to be tough to stop over the next few years as Cam Munster gets older, as DCE gets older. If this combination for the Blues works in this game, you're looking at Mitch Moses, he's 31. I don't see any signs of Mitch Moses slowing down. So he could play until he's 32, 33, maybe 34. By that point, Nath will be the same age Moses is at now, where it feels like he's at his best. You could be looking at a 2 or 3 year really dominant period.
Yeah.
From the Blues halves.
When you look at this Blues side, very few are over the age of 27.
Yep.
You're looking at Mitch Barnett maybe not being involved in the next couple of years, but for the majority of these names, they are on the younger side. If you can make this work, you've got a few good years ahead of you.
And even Mitch Barnett, if he's playing in 2 years' time, I really won't be shocked.
Yeah.
He's older, but he's handling himself. And you've got Payne Haas you can pair him up with who can go all fucking day and last forever.
Yeah.
Isaiah Yeo, he's 30 years old. He's one of the older ones, but 30s.
30 is really young, actually.
30 is really young. And for footballers these days, like, does Isaiah Yeo show any signs of slowing down at the moment? Like, if Isaiah Yeo at 34 is still playing Origin, maybe not playing 80 minutes, but handling himself, I don't think anyone will be surprised.
No.
I think this series, and you know what? Every series has been like this for the last 4 years with the New South Wales Blues. If this is the one where Cleary clicks, good fucking luck.
Yeah.
But once again, if this is the one where potentially the greatest player we've seen in the NRL era in club football clicks in Origin, all of a sudden Pandora's box is opened and it gets very tough for Queensland, who are about to go into a transition period where DCE will retire over the next year or two. They have to turn to someone new.
Into that
Is
dream
that Dearden?
halfback.
I mean, he's a 5'8". Is it Sam Walker? He's just coming back from an ACL and he plays a little bit scat, let's be honest here. Is Jamal Fogarty the next guy? Like, it's an interesting time.
Is he a
for
Queenslander, Jamal Fogarty?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Ah, there you go.
And I think he should
He
be.
really is. Is he really going to be the guy to just like fill in all of the DCA holes?
I think he is. He should be higher on the list than what he currently is. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Had a
so yeah,
great
it's going to
game
be an
this
interesting few years for Queensland. They will still have Munster, KP. You know, Reece Walsh will be floating around. They'll always have Harry Grant. They'll always be strong. But I think it is an interesting couple of seasons coming up. If New South Wales win this series and they're dominant, and Nathan Cleary has that confidence where he goes, "Fuck, okay, now I can dominate Origin."
Huge.
Going to be an interesting few years.
Huge. All right. Let's do a bit of a quick fire. I want player of the match and try scorers for the game.
Yeah, player of the match. I'll pick one from each side. I think if Queensland are to win this game, I think Harry Grant will be player of the match. I think Harry Grant can get player of the match playing 60 minutes. I think his impact is just I think if Queensland are to win, I think Harry Grant's going to be in for a very good game. I think that he is going to be the key to it. If Queensland are to win this game, their forward pack's going to have to compete, which means that Harry Grant's going to have to get them on the front foot and help them out. And I think he can play a big role there. You know, he's going to make his 45 to 50 tackles. And if he can just create those half opportunities around the ruck, Harry Grant's probably my guy from Queensland I'd pick. For New South Wales, call me biased, but it's my same guy from last series, Mitch Moses. And I think that when you put him on that left edge and he's got weapons like Angus Crichton, Latrell Mitchell, and if it does play out the way that Laurie Daly and the Blues are hoping, that Nathan Cleary is playing the dominant ball player and he gets into the right spots on the park and Mitch Moses is getting the ball too wider than he usually does and just allows him to attack, good fucking luck. Like Mitch Moses.
People can't see, but I had the biggest smile on my face while you were saying all that. I'm just picturing it. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it is. And Mitch deserves it, in my opinion. I've always been a huge Mitch Moses guy. I think he was criticised a lot in the early parts of his career. And, you know, he was a little cocky. He was a little arrogant. I think you need it to survive.
We need that in the game as well.
You need it to achieve what Mitch Moses has achieved. And if Mitch Moses wasn't a little bit arrogant, a little bit cocky, I'll give you the hot tip, he wouldn't have been able to go up to Suncorp and dominate Queensland last year. So I think that him playing second fiddle, if he just wholly embraces that role, which I'm sure the age is at and the sort of player is, I think he will. Mitch Moses, I think he's at about $9 for player of the match in this one. I like Mitch Moses and Harry Grant to be my pick from Queensland.
Okay. Give us your try scorers. Shall we go first try scorer for each?
Yeah, sure. I think try scorers, for me, it's very hard to go past Latrell Mitchell. For all the reasons I've said, everything just lines up to the left edge from me. I think he will get early ball to take on Toya. I think if they do manage to get the better of them early, I can see Latrell Mitchell crashing over. I think out of his last 5 Origins, he's scored in 4 of them. I wish I could give you some unbelievable analysis, but he's not at the same level as what GI was. Please don't get that confused. But you would just go into Queensland games knowing, as a New South Welshman, I would go into Origin games going, okay, the game hasn't kicked off yet. I know it's 6-0 because I know GI's already done scat that we can't handle. I feel like Latrell Mitchell is in that same sort of class, but not at the level of GI. Obviously, he's going to have to do it for the next 6 years in a row to be at GI's level. So Latrell Mitchell would be my pick for New South Wales. I also don't mind Connor Watson off the bench coming on. I just think he'll insert a bit of energy if he comes on when Spencer Leniu comes on and, you know, Payne Haas is still on and, you know, Isaiah Yeo shifts into that middle forward. I can just see him creating something around the ruck. Connor Watson, I don't mind him at value. For Queensland, I've got a feeling about Beau Fermor as a debutant. Now, you'll probably get good value for him because I think he'll end up starting this game. So if you're going to have a bet on this one, I'd probably wait until the game actually starts. But Yeah, Fermor I kind of like. Like you look at Olakwatu, obviously he's big and damaging and, he's a very different player to Bo Fermor, but Fermor's a try-scoring back rower. And if you're able to put him outside Daly Evans, which I think is where he will land, DCE feeds fucking good pills to his back rowers. And I think there's an opportunity there for Bo Fermor. So he's probably my guy from Queensland that I'm liking. But once again, I'd wait and see if he's starting there. If he starts, I really like Bo Fermor. If not, for me, Kat, I still think Harry Grant's hard to go past. I can just see him creating something around the ruck there. Obviously I'm a big fucking Harry Grant fan, have been for a long time, and he's the guy that probably scares me the most in this Queensland side at the moment. Bo Fermor would be my guy. If he doesn't start, I'd turn to Harry Grant in this one. Latrell's my guy for New South Wales, and Connor Watson would be my little smoky as a try scorer there.
I like it. I was going to say, I think I'll throw out my player of the matches.
Yeah, what do you got?
I've got Latrell for the Blues, and for the Maroons, who am I going to go for? I feel like someone like a Tino kind of deserves it.
I think Tino's a very good shout.
I just think his role is so crucial, and if he has a bad game, they have a bad game. It's as simple as that. So if he has a good one, he's very deserving of that. And try scorers, Hamiso for the Maroons. Those legs, he is scary. If he gets a run on it, you're done. You're absolutely done.
If he gets a half opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And then I would also take a Brian To'o for the Blues.
For try scorer?
Try scorer.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I feel like when it comes to...
Feels pretty safe to pick a winger.
I feel like in player of the match, though, in this game, I feel like Queensland... I feel like there's more guys that could win player of the match. I feel like... if they're going to win, it's going to be more of a team effort. It's going to be a little bit of a harder one. Whereas I feel like with New South Wales, I feel like it is very likely going to be one of Payne Haas, Mitch Moses, Nathan Cleary, or Latrell.
Yeah, and who we're not even mentioning is Zach Lomax. And when you talk about individual performance, for me, last series, there's Angus Crichton, of course, but Zach Lomax, I was there at one of the games, the one that was in Sydney.
Yeah.
And physically, even though I was in the nosebleeds and I'm looking down, Lomax was just all over it. And it's when you're physically at the games and you're looking down at the field and you really see how much engagement one player is having, that for me is a huge indicator of who's actually really impacting this game.
Yeah, and I think as well, just on Zach Lomax, that people always talk about this, like you see it every single week. You see it very rarely, but I think you've got the two best aerial guys in the game. Lomax and Coates, maybe give or take Daniel Tupou to be fair, but I think it's those two that in the air are just so good.
They're dangerous under a high ball.
And it's the only reason why I didn't pick him for a try scorer, because I just think Coates will be able to do enough to make it hard for him. But yeah, you sort of feel like if one jumps over the other, there'll be a tit for tat coming later in the game 100%. Where they'll take it personally. So
and both have got a mean try in them.
Yeah. So that'll be a cracker as well. I do think it is one spot that I really wish it wasn't Coates there, because if you've got Lomax and Crichton or Campbell, just both two big tall timbers that are good in the air. But yeah, I do hope this game isn't one off just aerial assaults.
Yeah,
I want to see it be just in the gutter. Yeah. Who's going to hold their hand in the fire the longest, which Origin tends to be. All right, legends. That'll do us here on the podcast. We are going to do a little Q&A from the Roo Crew that we're going to get stuck into. So that'll be exclusive in the Roo Crew. If you haven't joined already, the link is down in the description for you to join. We broke the Queensland side the other night, first to do it, 1-20. We had the entire squad in there a few hours before it broke elsewhere. So the Roo Crew, where you get all your information, all your extra content, all that stuff going on. Links down in the description. Enjoy your Origin football. And up the Blues. Godspeed.